Hello Gundam fans and welcome back to another video. Throughout the last year I've been watching the entire Gundam franchise, all the way from the original Gundam series from 1979, all the way to the Witch from Mercury, all the different timelines, all different series, and well, it's time to actually put my honest opinion and review on the actual Gundam franchise as a whole. So throughout the next couple weeks I'm going to be releasing videos on like my top 10 favorites, top 10 worst Gundams, tier listing, trying to rank each of the different Gundam mobile suits, some of the non-Gundam mobile suits, some pilots, videos like that. Maybe even some other videos here and there, maybe some games, I don't know. I just really want to make these videos to kind of put Gundams versus Gundam versus Gundam, basically. To kind of give my honest opinion which ones are better and which ones are not. So, if you're watching this video here, you can definitely see the title, and I will introduce it as is. This is going to be an insert I put at the beginning of each of my videos. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into whatever video this is going to be part of. Alright, today's is going to be my top 10 favorite Gundam series. Now, I did set some kind of rules. I am not doing any movies, so F91, narrative, anything that has a movie, that's specifically movie, I should say that, because Thunderbolt's on this list because it is an anime series, but they moved it into a movie format compilation. But it cannot be a movie. I'll do my favorite movies later, because movies do change some of these spots, because certain ones had better movies than others, and some had terrible movies. So, alright, so without further ado, let's go and get into my top 10 favorite Gundam series. And these are not going to include any build divers or build fighters. So let's go and get into it now. Alright, sitting at number 10 for my top 10 favorite Gundam series is going to be War in the Pocket. Overall, so I'm going to announce this now before I go forward with it, because I've been redoing these videos over and over again, trying to figure out how I want to talk about this. But so a lot of older Gundam for me doesn't feel as emotionally attached, and for me, I'm an emotionally attached person. So whenever I get to into an anime series, if it doesn't catch the emotions right away, it doesn't go anywhere. But then, of course, I want the story to make sense of those emotions. You just can't have some character crying out of nowhere just because reasons, just reasons. So War in the Pocket for me as a series, it's an older Gundam series. A lot of the older ones do not have the emotional appeal for me as like the newer ones. But War in the Pocket was nice due to the fact that it was short, sweet, very wholesome at times. You had our main character Alfred and Bernie becoming like best friends, like brothers. To have this very tragic outcome where Chris, also one of Alfred's closest like neighbors and friends, somebody that he's known for most of his life, which he's not very old, of course, he's a child still, but he's known her most of his life, having both of them go head to head in a fight at the end, and having, well, one of them dead and the other one nearly dead at the same time. So just the dynamic between them. We also got to see a side of the war that we didn't get to see through the original, 1 Year Wars with Armaru and White Base, original Gundam. So it really helped to expand on both sides of it and give a fair thing instead of making it seem like Zeon is 100% these bad guys. They are awful. All they do is kill people. There's nothing to them. They're just straightforward murderers. So this allowed us to kind of see both sides a little bit more and see that not everybody on both sides were exactly like that. Of course, there was some. Federation has theirs as well, so definitely one of those things. So that would have to be my 10th spot with War in the Pocket. Alright, and so the next series I'm going to be doing here, so whenever I include series, I mean it has to be an individual series, so I really want to make that clear as well on this number 9 spot, because this number 9 spot is actually going to be Seed Destiny. I count it as a separate series from Seed due to the fact that it's not listed as a season 1 or 2, unlike Iron-Blooded Orphans. Whenever I get to those ones, which I'm going to say some of them are on this list, like Double O, Iron-Blooded Orphans, A Witch from Mercury, all of them have a season 1 and 2, but they don't actually change the name like Seed and Seed Destiny. So I'm counting Seed Destiny as a prequel, but not a season 2, essentially. So Seed Destiny's on this list because it really is a nice thing to see our heroes and friends come back in another series. And yeah, it's not high on this list because we did have a lot of issues with, like, for example, Kigity. They basically took what they did with her and went crumble it up, throw it in the trash can. It don't matter anymore. We're gonna focus on Shen. And then we had Shen going on, and Shen was literally an angry child for the sakes of having an angry child. I get it, your family was killed during the fight during Orb, but you were just an angry child that literally is a child. Just letting teenage emotions go. Like, that's the whole series, is teenage emotions. So, Destiny didn't really sit with me. Some of the mobile suits were good, some of them are bad. The Impulse If you watch my tier list, you're gonna see where I rank all these, and you're gonna kind of see where I sit. So I'm only putting it on this because it really built on the Siege, so it's not my worst by far. Because it at least brought back Kira. It brought back the Strike Freedom, which is an amazing suit, and overall just kind of had at least a decent background. Not the worst, not the best. It's why it's high on this list as well. So it's why it's sitting at number 9. It was a tie between War in the Pocket and this one, to be honest, and I just couldn't decide. So I put this at number 9 just because Seed is good as well. And sorry, spoilers, but Seed's on this list as well. So that's going to be my number 9 spot. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get in number 8. Number 8 for me is going to be Stardust Memory. For an older series, this series was actually really good. So another interesting thing that I look for is how intense is the series? How much fun am I having? How is it drawing me in? Do I really want to watch the next episode, or am I just kind of clicking the video and staring at my screen? And then that's it. Or am I, oh my god, what's going to happen next? I really want to know. Let's go, let's go, let's go kind of situation. And Stardust Memory definitely had that, starting off with our young pilot, a trainee, meeting a girl that was a really smart engineer that created these Gundams and having to stop somebody that stole one of those Gundams, basically, that basically had a nuke strapped to it. And, well, one thing we know with the Gundam franchises, as well, that I know now, those of you that may not have watched the entire series may not know, but nukes are very, very bad no matter where you're at. And in Gundam, they're extremely bad because, well, nukes in that world, in the most Gundam world, is over the top. So the fact that this thing had one strapped to its shoulder, ready to fire at any time, meant a bad thing could happen. So the stakes were high. The main character dynamic with the female was, it's not in my top like 5 for anything, because it just felt, again, older anime has a hard time portraying emotions and things like that for me. At least I don't feel it as much, so I didn't really get the emotional aspect nearly as down. So this one was just overall interesting story arc, and had the stakes were really high and just felt really good to watch. Like I wanted to watch the next episode. So yeah, that's gonna be my number 8th spot. Gonna be Stardust Memory. All right, for my 7th spot, gotta look at my list because now that's just a thing. My 7th spot is going to be Thunderbolt, or Jazz Gundam. I call it Jazz Gundam because it's jazzy. Thunderbolt was just an exciting adventure thrill the whole time. It was shorter, so yes, it was a lot easier to keep my attention, but it during that time it felt like a lot happened, from the injured soldiers that were still fighting in Zaku's. They weren't able to pilot much, to having the high mobility Psycho Zaku come in. That thing was just a beast. And then of course our main character, I guess they're both main. So the pilot, I can't remember the name of the pilot, and I remember the name of the other pilot for the Thunderbolt Gundam, but the Thunderbolt Gundam pilot, he seemed more like a villain, unlike a hero. So he just seemed more psychopathic. Like, killing's fun. This is great. Let's keep killing. Yeah. It's like that dog is wagging their tail, but they're sitting there holding a gun to somebody's head. Like that. That's how he felt the whole damn time. Like, he did not feel honorable. He didn't none of that. The Zaku pilot, on the other hand, he was just traumatized and really upset about his situation, about how he was crippled and things like that. So he had a lot of like things that you could relate to in a way. Now, we had some scenarios in the series that were actually pretty nice, that also helped to add to the world itself. Like, we had the captain that she was doping herself with drugs every night because she couldn't deal with the reality that she was murdering people. She was ordering people to go murder people, and then her people would get killed as well. And so she was fighting and struggling with those kind of things. So a lot of things were just happening in it. I hope they do the rest of the novel. I know there's a novel because I may not read it, but I hope they do the rest of it in anime, which they still can, because it's only been a few years since those have been out, and they can definitely come back to it. It's not going to be much. If they're doing Seed 20 years later, they could definitely come back to that. So, all right, that's my number 7th spot right there, Thunderbolt Gundam. Going into my number 6 spot here, this one is only here because, hell, it was a fun ride, and it made me laugh more than anything. Even though it was older, this is going to be G Gundam. G Gundam is in my 6th spot just because it still made me laugh. The characters were enjoyable to watch. Um, I'm bad with names, but the pilot of the Dragon Gundam, Sansachi, or whatever they called him, was hilarious. Scared of ghosts. You had Domo that was over the top. Gundam fight! Yeah, it was great. Each of the Gundams are so stereotyped. You even had the Tequila Gundam, piloted by Chico Rodriguez. How much more stereotype can you get than that? I'm from so I currently live out of Phoenix, Arizona. I lived in New Mexico, one of the states, at one point. I lived there for most of my life, and Chico Rodriguez is a common ass name in both places, and they're right next to the Mexican border. Like where I grew up on the Mexican border, so I thought it was just hilarious. I have an open mind. If you don't have an open mind, you're gonna think it's racist, fucked up, and you're not having fun. I had fun because I opened my mind to it, and in those areas, Chico Rodriguez is definitely a name that you hear quite often. Not every day, but you do hear it. So it had just fun, over the top stereotypes that if they were to make G Gundam nowadays, it would be like 90% censored. Like honestly, I'm surprised they're even airing it on any platform and not censoring it because people get hurt so often. That's what I mean. You have to go into it with an open mind. If you do, you're gonna have a fun time. I had a fun time. I liked it. The main character did have some character growth, so that's something I really put into some of these is character growth. Character growth. He didn't have a whole lot. It was fun, but he had some. So he went from I'm going to go save my brother and fight the Devil Gundam to I'm gonna fight my brother. That's done, kind of, because the whole thing where it came back. But I'm gonna be there for my girl by the end of it. At least he had some priority change. So anyway, that's gonna be it for my number 6 spot with G Gundam. All right, so we're getting into the top 5 Gundam series for me. These ones right here were no brainer. Like they literally stood out from the crowd. Basically, these guys right here screamed my personal 5. Now there's some that screamed more on the higher on the list than others, and so let's get into that 5th spot here. That 5th spot is going to be Seed. Destiny was on here, so Seed's on here. Seed is really what set Seed Destiny on this list because it built so much on that to add Seed Destiny. Just they threw away a lot of what they had, but they still had a lot of good things. We had a main character that had massive character growth. We had an interesting plot that had a nice twist at the end, for me at least. So he went from being just a basic coordinator to coming out that he's the ultimate coordinator, that they genetically enhanced beyond what the others were. And even having a twin sister that wasn't a coordinator, which was really different. Like most genetic things, you're going to think one's going to be the other, but the way they did it, it made sense. So it felt nice. Kira definitely is a interesting pilot, and I'm interested to see what they do with him in the movie coming up in the next few months. Whenever this gets released, I'm not sure when the movie's going to be out. Here in the States, we get the short end of the stick, so if it says it's going to be a January release, we're not going to see it till next year in March or April. Like, it's just not going to be here. Even though I do watch sub, I'm not going to be able to see it in theaters till then. So, C definitely got it. There were parts where I was so invested, I just did not want to stop watching it. And each of the mobile suits are just fantastic. I can't put any of them down. I can't think of one that I could just straight up say it was bad. The Aegis was only bad because I have PTSD with fucking the Master Grade. Like that. By the way, that Master Grade's PTSD in a box. Like you build that thing, and every time you see a transforming mobile suit after that you have to build, you start crying a little. So yeah, that's gonna be my 5th spot right there with Seed. All right, for my number 4th spot on this list, and I wish I could put this higher, but there were some factors that put it a little lower, but it's still in the top 5, so it can't go much higher than where it is right now. So this series is going to be Double O. Double O for me was another intense series. The emotions were so strong in that one. Like for me, again, animes, if you can give me a strong emotional period, because I'm a baby, I will cry over literally anything. If I cry, it's emotional. If I don't cry, then there was nothing there. That's what a lot of the older series did. I didn't cry even though they were supposed to be sad scenes. I was like, oh, yeah, they're dead. But in Double O, we had some interesting moments. We also had a main character that had some massive growth. So Setsuna went from being the edgy teenage emo kid down the street that cut himself every day to being basically a hero. And I don't, he didn't actually, but that was just like an example of him being edgy. So came in, he was like, I don't care about any of this stuff. I don't care about you. I'm just gonna get the job done. None of this matters. To wow, there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of things that I need to do because only I can get it done, and I have to get this done. Kind of situation. So they really, it really felt like he had some growth in there. Then each of the other Gundam pilots were just fantastic. You had Hallelujah/Alleluia/ insert the name, losing his goddamn mind here and there and trying to fight with each other, which was kind of funny because one was super, I'm gonna murder every single thing and I don't care because I'm a psychopathic crazy, and the other one's like, I just want to grow flowers and make friends and be left alone. And then they would just argue with each other. One would take over in certain situations, the other one wouldn't. And then soon went away. Then we had Soma Pierce that came into it as well that really brought an interesting aspect to Allelia's character. So interesting. Tyrion, best girl. Oh, don't tell me not best girl. We already know best girl. So also piloting one of my top mobile suits, the Virtue, which is also the Natalie, and that's why it's up there because both of them are just fantastic for me. So that mobile suit's got a booty thicker than the Kardashians. So yeah, not much more I can say about that. Lol. Can I just say, hearing a Haru scream lock on over and over again still hurt. Like that was painful. Like that's really the emotional pill. The series had a lot of it, and you grew attached to these characters in such a short time. So that's gonna be my number three, or my number four spot. Sorry for this video right here. So let's go and get into the next. All right, and in my number three spot, we're going all the way back to the Universal Century here with Unicorn Gundam, or Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn. I watched the extended version of it. I didn't watch the short run of it because I like my series a little bit longer. I like to actually feel a little bit more attached to my characters. I'm a huge One Piece fan, and I've read the manga and watched the anime. And if that doesn't tell you I'm in it for the long run, I don't know what is with 1,730 episodes. And then also, this is a perfect example. This was like 900-ish episodes for all of the Gundam series. So I'm in it for the long run. I'm not in it for the short run. So I watched the longer version of it because I liked it a little bit more, or I wanted a little bit more on it. So this series right here brought in some of the coolest mobile suits you could ask for in the franchise. I mean, Charge Counterattack, it's not on this list, but that also had some cool stuff too because I'm not including movies. Um, but Unicorn Gundam definitely had the emotional appeal. My favorite character in the franchise is Marietta, and well, El Peru, which is a clone. Which if you watched it, they're clones. Blah blah blah. Sorry, it's just how it is. And this one really brought the final clone dying as her also saying the background or backstory about how she went from the Purdue 12 all the way to that was dreadful. Like it was heartbreaking. This also felt really nice. Like Unicorn felt really nice. I can definitely see where Unicorn's like a gateway into Gundam. I didn't watch it first, like a lot of people I know have, but it was nice because it wrapped up a lot of what the Universal Century was trying to say and do, and all that stuff that you got little pieces here and there, here and there, here and there from all the other series. Because let's be honest, the Universal Century isn't the greatest story total, so it's very drawn out, even more so than like One Piece because there's not a lot of story and they're drawing it out over decades. Unlike One Piece, where there's a shit ton of story and they're drawing it over decades. So, Unicorn felt like it took a lot of what was already established, a lot of what was already said, and really explained it and brought you into the world a little bit further. So, whenever I got to like narrative, for example, narrative was so fantastic for me. Again, not on this list because it had so much already built and Unicorn already answered and established a lot more and basically reinforced what we already had in the Universal Century at that by that point. So it was a nice change for that, and it felt really good. A lot of the characters, Benanji was I liked him as a character. Princess Maneva, I liked her as well. Or Audrey, we're gonna say Audrey. So Unicorn definitely is up in my top three. I don't know. And then the music, uh, the music, the music was so good. It fit the theme. The theme song for the Unicorn is so good. So yeah, that's gonna be my number three spot for this list here. Let's get into my number two. Okay, so this one was really hard. This one's really, 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 really hard because both series were so fantastic. I'd have to say these two could be interchanged as one and two, and one of them a little bit more than the other. Like, if I had to really give somebody like if they asked me what Gundam series should I watch that's not in the Universal Century or that is a standalone Gundam series, so I don't have to watch a bazillion series in the timeline just to understand it. I'm gonna have to say at my number two spot. So we're gonna do number two. Number one is, if they had to ask, number two is gonna be the Witch from Mercury. The Witch from Mercury started off so fucking strong. That was painful, and they continued that theme through the series. So it started off with, Ari being a child, and she basically encoded herself into the Lifrith or the Uberith, which we're America. We say Lifrith because we don't understand the other term. But encoded herself into it, and on her fourth birthday, the base got attacked, and well, people died, things happened, and I don't like the word happy. I don't like happy birthdays anymore. Birthdays aren't fun. They're not fun anymore. I don't wanna. And then they kept that throughout the series, so they had a moment with Ellen where Ellen didn't know his birthday and she wanted to know, so she was singing the song, and he died on that day as well. So it was just a roller coaster with that. Coming to also find out that Ari is the Ariel, so she had to fight her sister in the end and also stop her mom. Which, can I say, the only really bad portion of this is, how the fuck did her mom not get locked in prison by the end of that? Like, minimal. Like, she tried to genocide the entire world using her deceased daughter's soul in a giant 18-meter death machine. Like, the ending. Also, we had some cool relationships with characters. I do want to say something for Seed. Kara was one of the characters that actually got laid and had some emotional attachment to it. So in this one, I don't know, we didn't get any of that, but talking about relationships, that's what I'm going with here. Is that Marion and Soletta, them getting married in the end, technically. And can we not get the friendship ring Gunpla? Not. Can we fucking not? Because it's already been established that Ari calls Marion's her sister-in-law, so stop. So yeah, that whole end scene, going to that end scene, I don't know why mom's there. She should be in prison. Lock her ass up. So a lot of emotions, a lot of things. The Calibarn is definitely one of my top mobile suits. Top, definitely. It's so beautiful, so gorgeous. It even has a witch's broom, which is awesome. So awesome. So yeah, that's gonna be for my number two spot. And for my number one spot, go ahead and get into it right here. Because, like I said, these two are very close to each other for me. We're gonna get into Iron Blooded Orphans as my number one spot. Surprise, surprise. I loved it. I was so invested in it. I honestly, so whenever I was doing the recordings for the actual reaction of that, I actually recorded the entire thing in like 3 4 days. Like, watched everything, even with my full-time job. Like, it did not take long for me to get through it. Not because it wasn't long, but because I was so invested, and all I wanted to do was watch it. It had so much emotion. The main character, I do have to say though, the main character, from both Witch from Mercury and Iron Blooded Orphans, Soletta was very, very. She's a very different character than what came along, and definitely from Mika. Mika and her are two very different characters because, unlike my worst rated and Gundam series, which you're gonna have to watch that to see what that is, Mika actually had character growth. Surprisingly, he went from being very cold to very understanding and trying his best to understand and learn. So whenever there was a scene that really got to me, whenever Autry or Kudella, one of them two, the two were crying, and no, it was Kudella, she was crying, and Autry was like, "You're supposed to hug a girl when she's crying," and Mika goes over there and awkwardly hugs her because of that, and so he starts doing that after that, and he starts learning the human emotions, even though he's still very cold. He's probably one of the coldest, like, killing pilots in the entire franchise. Like, we're gonna give it to him on that one. But he had a lot of growth with that. The only thing he didn't really growth and I didn't like too much was that he was very simping for Ogra. Like, very simping. Like, if you want to talk about a giant simp, that was a giant simp. Anything that Ogra said, he just did. So, I like the idea of the world itself, the orphans. That was very relatable because each one of them had personal troubles and traumas and had their own reason why they were there in the end. Why did they didn't? Because technically they got freed. Tekken got freed from the first episode. I mean, Mika just blowing people's brains out is kind of just a common theme, but they got free, and any of them could have probably left and just would have been fine, but they stayed. Well, one, because a lot of them needed financial support, and two, they stayed because they all had their reasons for doing that and actually needing that financial support. For example, we have the brother with his sister and how he wanted to send his sister to school and pay for it and have them live a happy life. We also had Biscuits with crackers and cookies where he wanted to send both of them to school, so he needed the money to be able to do that. So each character had a reason why they were there in the end to some degree. So I really like that. We had the emotion with Akihiro and his brother. Um, Forget her name, blonde haired girl that got shot in the brains. Akihiro losing her. I can't even think of names right now. I'm so bad with names, but anyway, that hurt a bunch. Then finally we got Biscuits. Like I said, Biscuits had a reason to be there. He was trying his best to provide for his two sisters and put them, in school. Well, he didn't quite make it, which hurt a lot. Now, without the emotional appeal of this, I'm going to get into the part that I liked a lot because me, I don't mind punchiness in a series. I like fights, but they have to be reasonable. This series actually had some good fights. They were all very inwoven in the actual story very well, and of course, it had one of the most brutal fights in all of Gundam. I mean, MS 8th Team almost made this list because of one of its fights, but it didn't quite make the list. There's only so many Gundam series. I had to make a top 10 of each one, so each one had to fall. So MS teams didn't make it, but this scene would have put it in my top 10 best if there were more series to put into it and actually organize a little bit. If War in the Pocket wasn't so great, I would have probably put in there. Or honestly, See Destiny. If it wasn't part of Seed and See Destiny was its own thing, that would have been swapped out probably. But I had to put it somewhere. I did. I just had to. But we actually had one of the most brutal mobile suit fights in all of Gundam in Iron Blooded Orphans, where Mika literally murdered a woman for trying to challenge him to a duel just to get it over with quickly. So absolutely brutal. So it also had some of the best mobile suits. Barbados is my number one favorite mobile suit. Sorry for the tier list, but it's up there. It's like I won't say number one, but it's up in the top 5. I'll get to that more when I get there, just because I'm gonna actually be looking at all of them. So I'm very excited to do that because I want to break the series down a little bit more. So anyway, this is future me chiming in here because I was doing some editing and realized there was something else I wanted to talk about. I really wanted to talk about something that made my day because in Iron Blood and Orphans, whenever I seen it, it was the fact that we actually had a character that most main characters failed to do, or one thing that one character did, and it was the guy in his harem. We have so many harem animes where literally, like for example, High School DxD, where the main character was like, I want a harem, I want it now, and then you have Iron Blood Orphan. This guy's like, yeah, I got like girl sitting there. You want to chill? Like, I don't care. Like, he just chill about it. So anyway, I was going through my editing and I realized I did not talk about that, so I really wanted to quick talk about because it was funny to me and it was great. So that's gonna be my top 10 for the best Gundam series in my opinion. Remember, this is my opinion. If you don't agree, you don't have to agree. Simple. Anyway, though, if you're liking the video and you want to, leave some comments. Tell me what your favorite Gundam series are. And definitely, if you haven't yet, slash that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in the next.